Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Oh, I tell you what, my history's
Yeah.
strong as. I feel like I'm in the gym.
You ready to go?
Oh, the upper body's still skipping. Legs
What about, how much sugar you get, 11 mil?
No,
9, yeah. What is it?
I'm sorry.
559.
$50.
I'll open the meeting and declare the meeting open. Welcome those present in attendance and advise that the meeting will be recorded in accordance with the council policy titled Electronic Recording of Council Meetings Policy of Meetings of Council to assist in preparation of minutes and ensure a true and accurate account of debate and discussion of meetings is available. Now do an acknowledgement of country. Circulate Council acknowledges the North West Coast Aboriginal people as their traditional custodians of the country on which we stand, meet and play. We recognise their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. We pay respect to elders past, present and emerging. Tonight we'll be taking our masks off when we speak. Last time they were reasonably muffled, and so we'll take our, we can take our masks off when we speak, put them on after. So I'll be upstanding tonight for prayers. Prayers tonight will be by Pastor Matt Husky. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll just quickly say a short prayer, then we can say the Lord's Prayer together. So, Lord, just thank you for the stars. Thank you for the councillors, Lord, and I just thank you for their heart to serve on council. And I just pray, Lord, that you would just bless them and their families. And just pray tonight, Lord, that there would be unity and wisdom. Let's just say the Lord's Prayer together.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, power and glory, forever. Amen.
Thanks, Matt. Record of attendance, Councillor Woodward's. He's not a apology. He's leave of absence. Everybody else is here. We'll move along to the minutes of the previous meeting held on the it's not the 21st of October, it was in January. Somebody prepared to move those? I moved. Thanks, Councillor Aldo. You second it?
Yes.
Councillor Raposky, any queries on the minutes?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I understand there were some amendments set in, that there were some inaccuracies sent in by a constituent. I just wanted to check that had been taken on board.
Yes.
In particular, the second public question time.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I've had contact with the constituent in that respect, and I've asked for the particular question that she was referencing in that aspect. Email late this afternoon said that will be forthcoming fairly shortly, so as soon as we get that, we'll come back to that particular component.
Just to understand the process, does that then come back to us next month to approve? Or? That
will come back through to the council, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evelyn. Any further queries on the minutes? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Issues raised by councillors. There's a question there from Councillor Posky with a response. 3-2, a question, Councillor Berkery in the response. Another one from Councillor Posky in response, and Councillor Aldaker in response. Councillor Ives Harrison in response. Queries on those? Not, we'll move along to 3-3. Councillor questions without notice. Are there any councillor questions without notice? Councillor Rattler.
Yes,
You can take your mask off.
Oh, thank you.
while you talk.
My first question, I want to ask, what would be the process to have a sign installed near the Forest Shop intersection regarding compression braking noise from trucks? Apparently, some companies are really good with it and some aren't, and I wondered if there was a sign, who owns the road, what's the process, or if there are other measures that's taken place if that's ever a problem.
That would be a matter of writing to state growth, I would have thought.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, probably would be state growth, but in respect of just clarifying that, there is some standard signage that I understand can be used. So we'd go and clarify which part of the road network would be, and then have a look at, is there any particular location that you've got feedback from residents on?
Is it the Backline Road or Mango
Yeah,
Road?
apparently near the intersection of Backline
Yes.
Right.
and Mango Road.
Yep.
So it's out near the dance courts.
Opposite, diagonally opposite, near the blue building.
Yeah.
Right, yep,
Yeah.
yep,
That
okay.
road. But I guess the sound goes the whole way.
That's right.
That's right, yeah, that's right, yeah.
You need it.
Whichever road works, I suppose.
You need it to be
One on each one.
reasonable distance before it, so you've got time to stop them from utilising their brakes too heavy. Any other further questions? You got another Councillor Allen?
I've got a couple of it.
Okay.
Keep going. You go.
Okay, thanks. If there was a risk that the Circular Head show could not continue due to lack of volunteers, what would council's appetite and capacity be to see the show continue?
That would need to go to a workshop, so we could have some discussions on what types of things would need to happen. So it's something we'd probably rather than wait till time come, is we could have some discussion on those. So I'd say we ought to go to a workshop and sometime shortly and have a discussion about it.
Thank you. My last one. I've raised previously the problem of community corrections not offering the ability for traffic offenders to work off fines in Circular Head. The legal structure exists in the states, but if somebody has an accident and they lose their licence and their job, it's almost impossible for them to get back into the workforce, get their life back on track. Could Council coordinate a discussion, given the Department of Justice have indicated their support, and how can we be sure that this is kept as a priority so it doesn't sort of get lost?
I'm not sure on this one. It's something we would need to have a talk to the Department of Justice, I would have thought.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think it would be wise that we touch base with the local correction services and see what options are available.
There is a lady called Hayley who's indicated that there will be support and the structures are already in place. It's a local solution to fit
So is she a local person or?
I believe she's with Northwest section of Department of Justice.
Oh, okay. Yep. Oh, we have a talk to her and see. Probably get her to come down and have a talk to us about what options they've got. Would be the way to go, I would have thought.
That'd be great. How do we make sure that this stays on the table? And
Well, now you've asked a question, it'll be on file. So.
It'll be in the thing.
Yep, that's fine. Councillor Hyman.
Yes. Council, in 3rd of February I was circulated with some depreciation schedules and that for the standing rec ground and on the rec ground. I'm wondering if I can request a copy of the fair value and annual depreciation expense schedules of the following. 1, the Smithton Recreation Building and its infrastructure that are on that recreation area. 2, the area of land that and its buildings, etc., where the swirl swimming pool is, and the adjoining building that are within that allotment.
Yeah,
As a trying to understand, as a new councillor coming on, trying to understand, with the finance and things like that, I'm finding that interesting and a bit better understanding of council's finances.
I'm sure that can be got to.
There'll be a workshop item.
We could do a report at our next council meeting probably. Everybody's got a copy of it then. That'll be about the way to go.
Certainly put it into a workshop and then me and Mr. Mayor have a conversation around the report.
Any further questions without notice?
Have another one?
Yeah.
Through the Mayor, in an article this week, Council has expressed an interest in attracting a more diverse and younger representation. What steps have been taken by Council or the GAT as a sector to make this a reality for the October election?
I know at last election, the GAT had 3, 1 in each north, west, north and south. They had an evening where any prospective councillors could go and ask questions, and at that stage they had mayors and others, councillors that was there to answer questions. And I thought that was actually really good. And so, but our council can do whatever, and we normally have a get together. We haven't done it every time, but we have done it from time to time, and so that's whatever council wishes to have, because we do need, I suspect that there will be 3 or 4 councillors probably won't be putting up this next year, and so we'll need some candidates to put up, and the more candidates to put up, the better. It gives people a choice, which is what election should all be about. So, and I think that the more we can do to help others that may be interested and give some guidance and help, the better. So, yeah, I'll be doing whatever I can do. And that was the other reason why I let people know that I wouldn't be standing, so that people know that there are open for people to consider, and we need to do it earlier rather than wait till August, September, because it's too late then for people to consider and make decisions that are about the role. Anything further? Sorry, but the other side of it, councillors will have the chance to decide whether we want to do something locally other than Northwest Coast side of it as well. No further questions? Moving right along. 4, declaration of pecuniary interest. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? None? I now need a resolution to...
Before you go, non-pecuniary interest, I've got an interest in 5.2, and I'll leave the room, and that's been discussed.
Yep, thank you. I now need a motion on 5, 6, 7.
I want to clarify what I was about 5.2.
The workshop.
I don't think it's right.
The workshop, or
Well, there'll be a decision made on that tonight, I guess, will there?
that's only noting the workshop. That's all 5.2 is.
So what you're saying, there's no decision been made on that particular item yet, then?
No. Well,
Just for clarification, which particular item, Councillor?
on the show, the depreciation
Yes. No, I've got it here.
of
The Stanley Beach Shed project.
Stanley Beach project, yes.
Decision's already been made on that. That's in train.
that's in train.
Yeah.
So the decision has been made.
That's right.
Thank
The
you.
advice has been provided to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the item 5 is just the reference to topics that were discussed at last workshops, and
Yes.
actually for decisions tonight. So on that basis, there's probably no need to declare.
That's right.
You comfortable with that?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any correspondence going back to Day Society.
I need to check that out.
Thank you.
Okay, did I have a mover a second for this?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Blizzard, and second by Deputy Mayor. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Now there's 5. There's 2 workshops there. Any questions on any of those? If not, we'll move to the Mayor's appointments. You can see a few things that I was involved in for the month. Are there any questions on those?
The boat marina inspector.
Boat Marina, we've had a guy come in. He's the chair of the yacht club now. Andrew Busher, and they would like to look at whether they take that area on or they're considering, and so there'll be more come to council when he decides what he wants to do about it. So it won't be a decision that obviously I make, but he just wanted to know what options he might have to for the yacht club to do some work on that and to take control over it. So what will come out of it, we'll find out, and so all council will be aware of it when he decides, because he doesn't know what he wants to get himself. Is there anything else?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. A request has been received in writing, and there will be a briefing paper for your March workshops to consider options in terms of that particular site and its future use.
Councillor Albaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could you enlighten us what your discussions with the down was? Was that state politics or federal politics?
A little bit of both, but mainly state politics, because obviously Anita's in state. She had just a few queries of various things that we've been discussing about wind farms and with Western Explorer, with the what else we discussed? The Dismal Swamp and projects there, and just what our council was feeling about a lot of those sort of issues. And but it was more of a fact thing, but she did bring their new Braddon person that's put up, and so he was just querying. So we told him we did have a wish list for the next election, and so I was going to catch up with Anne Urquhart on that and check it out. So, but it was just a general discussion. There's nothing else that I've missed on that, is there?
You've covered it, Mr. Mayor.
Anything else on my appointments? If not, we'll move. And there's nothing on the late agenda items.
Yes, there was.
Oh, there it was. There's a question we had on here.
In relation to the Stanley Norfolk Island fines.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that came in late. So we'll need a motion on that to accept that.
Accept that, yes.
Happy to.
Thanks, Councillor Rathman. Councillor Ives-Harris. Put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Go down to 8, public questions. Council encourages community participation by providing opportunity for public questions on activities of council. Councillors and staff strive to ensure all people are treated with courtesy, fairness, dignity and respect, and we ask members of the public to apply similar standards in dealing with the council. As the chairperson of the meeting, it is my responsibility to judge if a question or statement is out of order due to use of offensive, objectionable or defamatory expressions. I intend to provide people the opportunity to ask 2 questions each, and if time permits, I allow more. Please provide your name and contact details and summary of your question on the forms provided so that if we need to contact you, we can. If you have a question, please come to the microphone and state your name and ask your question. 8.1 is follow-up correspondence to questions without notice. There's none of those. So 8.2, we did have a public question received in writing about Trethuri's lookout. That has been dealt with and
Yes.
we had an answer.
Yep.
The answer to that be, given the reporting system of state growth, why did that come to council? The answer redirected to state growth reporting number.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we did follow up and forward that question on. I can certainly advise the customer that there is a reporting mechanism directly through state growth.
That's
But
correct. That's the correct process.
We respected the process and no wrong door, essentially forwarded the request on.
I believe the email actually asks us to advocate to state growth on their behalf.
Yep.
Thank you. And 8.2.2, do you want to talk about this?
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Request in writing has been received in relation to the Stanley Norfolk Island mines, similar to the item that was referenced in the late agenda item, where the history is actually attached to that request for council's information. At the present point in time, council's horticultural team has engaged an arborist to actually have a look at those trees. Upon receiving that report, further decisions can be made then in relation to what council's overall strategy may well be in relation to those particular trees. If I draw council's attention back to the late agenda item correspondence, you'll note Stanley Museum has been very kind and provided us with the background in relation to the history and the reports that are associated with that, dating back many years, back to the last time council had a formal report was on the 16th of November 2000. So there's been new concerns raised, dare I say respectfully, in the report in 2000 they suggested that the trees potentially may have a lifespan between another 20 or 30 years. We're about at that time. In relation to getting another arborist report, I think that would be a very prudent move. Hence, we've taken that step to expedite the process.
Thank you. So after the arborist has a look at it and gives us a report, that'll come back to council for further discussion. Thank you. 8.3.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question was raised in relation to 8.3, in relation to Robbins Island Road. There's been circulated some further information on a separate sheet for everybody tonight. Essentially, from council's perspective, we haven't done maintenance for a considerable number of years in that particular location on the roadway itself. Any road maintenance that would have been completed in that space is by persons unknown to council at this point. So, information's there for councillors to consider.
Thank you. Come now to public questions without notice. Are there any public questions without notice?
My name's Melissa Wells. I'd just like to point out that I disagree with you accepting the minutes from the last meeting because there's 2 lots of question times. My question that I asked in regards to the COVID testing bus was in the second lot of question time, and the questions that I asked in the first lot of question time aren't even included in the agenda at all. And the wording, this is the email that I sent to Scott Riley on the 1st of February. Hello, Scott. I'm writing in regards to the public question I asked at the January 22 meeting and how it is recorded in the minutes. Does not reflect the verbal recording on the YouTube channel for Circular Council meetings. The specific concerns I had with the gravel being laid on that area, which is a pre-registered Aboriginal heritage site, AH4211, and that is now unable to be relocated, and that this particular site was in the direct area of the proposed bridge/causeway that is to be constructed as part of the Robbins Island Wind Farm DA. I have obtained a copy of the draft minutes and do not believe it records a true and accurate account of my question and would appreciate it being changed to reflect the actual content of my question. I have attached photos of the end of Robbins Island Road and the gravel that has been laid there, and also the pages from the Aboriginal Heritage Report that was done by Stuart Hayes, and the pages which have the previously recorded site, AH4211, located on Robbins Island Crossing Road. Why have you only now added them photographs that I sent you on the 1st of February into the agenda? Why wasn't the whole thing put in there? The part about the Aboriginal heritage and the damage to the Aboriginal heritage. Why are you only recording part of my question?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we're still in a process of responding to that first question that you've raised, because there is, in terms of the dynamics of that particular road circumstance, as I mentioned earlier, there has been maintenance done in relation to that particular road, not by council. If there is a greater concern in relation to the disturbance of Aboriginal artefacts, I'm seeking some advice in relation to that as to whether that is a responsibility for council or it's a responsibility for the minister who's responsible for Aboriginal affairs within the state.
Well, I've put in a complaint directly to Aboriginal Heritage and they are taking it on as an investigation, so it will be dealt with. But what I'm more pertaining to is the fact that you have excluded that part of my question. That's not even in the agenda. There's no mention of me saying anything about an Aboriginal site being disturbed. Why has that not been included in the agenda?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as I explained earlier, I'm still in the process of working through that question. I haven't got a response at this point in time.
But when other people ask questions about things, you still put the question in there. Otherwise, how's the community supposed to know what people are asking questions about?
Point taken. Thank you.
Yeah. So will the minutes be changed and be made a true and accurate account of the minutes?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I will verify that question being asked, yes.
Well, that's what you said to me in the email, and then you took the photographs out of my 1st of February email and attached them to some paperwork and have handed around all the councillors, but omitted the part about the Aboriginal heritage.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, those photographs are actually included in the public agenda for everybody's viewing. They're not just attached to a sheet of paper.
Oh, sorry, then why isn't the sheet of paper including the part about the Aboriginal Heritage Report? I just want to know why you don't so dead set on not including the fact that Aboriginal heritage was damaged.
I'm not in the position of actually excluding information. What I've said to the respondent who's asked the question is that I'm still in the process of investigating that question that you've asked.
But we don't even know what the question is because it's not in the agenda. You didn't include it in the agenda.
You have raised the point that that's not included in the agenda. I will seek to clarify that.
Well, this is what you did to me 2 years ago when you altered my questions. Do I have to go back to Andrew Corbyn at the Department of Premier and Cabinet and put in more complaints? That'll get me nowhere. Anyway, question number 2.
Yep.
What is being done about the tree planting on Nelson Street and Grant Street in regards to the dairy effluent smell and silage odour that is travelling across to the public housing in Grant Street, stopping residents from hanging their washing on the line and enjoying their yards from the repugnant smell that is affecting them? I note a landscape plan was part of the DA application for the robotic dairy, and I note that trees for buffer purposes are still not planted on Nelson Street, and the streets of Grant Street are still not an effective buffer from the comments from the community members that are living in Grant Street.
I would have thought we'd need to take that on notice.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll take that on notice and follow that up with the manager of development and regulatory.
I'll leave it at that if I have time. I do have another couple of questions.
Thank you. Is there any further questions without notice? The public.
Hi, I'm Sonia Searle, and I'm just here because want to know what's going to happen to the trees, the Norfolk trees. Yeah.
That's what was just discussed, and so we're getting an arborist in, and then a report will come back to council.
And within regards to, by law, you can have trees that are hanging over your fence. You can get them chopped down, removed, and the bill goes to whoever owns that land.
I couldn't answer that question.
Well, when I spoke to you on the phone, you told me I was right.
I said you can cut them down, but I'm not sure about the bill going back to who owns the trees. I don't know that, but I know that.
Well, it's on council property.
If you've got anything, you...
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'd have to take that one on notice given the fact that there's some specific requirements in relation to notification where there's adjoining boundaries and trees.
Well, if they're over your yard, if you live next door to someone and their trees are hanging over your fence, you've got the right to cut them down and chuck them back over their fence.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The law of trees, there are specific laws, and I wouldn't like to answer all the things on it tonight, but my understanding is there are provisions that allow you to block branches back to your boundary and probably return them to the neighbour, but that's not necessarily cutting down the tree as such, but you are permitted to block branches.
That's all she was talking about, taking the branch down, not the whole tree down.
The trees, they're going to end up falling down. Like, they're past their age. They're damaging our properties.
That's why we get an arborist in to check on. And
you told me that by this tonight that you would have had one in so we could have answers on what was going on.
What I told you that if you come and ask a question, we would get an arborist in to have a look at it. Now, we've taken the liberty of checking up on getting an arborist in already because we didn't wait till tonight, so we've already started a process of getting an arborist to have a look at those trees.
So does that mean, like, I nearly got hit by a limb here a couple of weeks ago that fell off, and so if someone in the community's walking down the street and the limb falls off and injures them, is the council liable for that?
I couldn't answer that question.
Someone has to be.
Well, it'd be illegal. Be a legal question that would need to be answered by a legal person.
They just need to be gone. Like everyone that lives in the street is sick of it. The mess, like people mow their lawns, and what do you call it, comes off that. Yeah, and it's wrecking lawnmowers and the people that lived in the house before us, we've been there 10 years, they would never mow around that tree or do anything to it because of the problem and the mess that it made. And now 10 years later, it's even bigger, and there's limbs in them like this. If they fall down on our house, who's going to pay it?
So I couldn't give you an answer to that tonight, but we're doing some more work with it, so hopefully by the next month we'll have a report in and we'll have some discussion with it then.
Yeah, well, it's just, you try living like it. It's, overnight, how windy it is. All the stuff on the roof, we've got some solar panels. What's the point of having them if the sun don't get on?
Okay, well, no, I think I've given the answer that we can give you, and that's all we can give you at this stage. Yep, no question.
It's regarding the Robin Line.
To the mic.
Go to the mic because it's been recorded. And name?
My name is Margot.
Margot.
It's to do with the Robbins Island project. I'd like to know when we all submit our opposing them, the project.
Yes.
What independent person is going to take all in our submissions so we know that you aren't just going to put them in a bottom drawer and not listen to all our reasons we don't want.
Certainly you won't be put them in the bottom drawer. They will be looked at. Now, depending on what the question is, they'll either be answered by EPA, or if it's a council question, it'll be in the report when it comes to council. Now, that could be a few months yet before we see that, but once all the submissions that come in, council does have a look at all of those, and so when the report comes to ratification from council, it'll be all in the report.
Right. My next question is it true that the council, is going to receive $500,000 a year from UPC to allow this project to go ahead?
No, we're not. We are trying to get some funding to help the community, and it's not going to come to council. It would come to an independent body that hasn't been formulated yet. But
so in other words, sorry sir, but in other words, you're getting money because you know very well you're going to allow this to go ahead. You're going to decimate these devils. You're going to kill every bird on that island for one greedy man, John Hammond, who all he wants is money. So you're going to let him do that.
This is the question time. This is not a statement which you're trying.
I beg your pardon?
This is a question time.
The question. Why should, just answer me this, why should one man be allowed to alter every ratepayer's property because he wants money? Why are we suffering, and why will we suffer with the traffic, with the pollution, with the noise pollution, with everything that it's going to bring? Why should we suffer? That's my question. Why one fat cat gets fatter?
Okay.
It's a question.
Yeah. I think you just need to tone your question down because we're...
Well, at least I don't need to use the mic.
Probably don't, because we are on Skype, so I mean that everybody else is listening to it as well.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah, no, but...
I'm very glad.
Well, the answer to it is we'll need to take it on notice, to be quite frank. So
well, when we put our submissions in...
Because the council will at some point in time look at this report. There's no guarantee that it'll get through council. I don't know whether it will or not.
Well, I really hope...
Because we haven't seen the report, so we can't comment on the report that we haven't seen.
This is the report from the EPA?
No, this is a report that our planners will give to us to deal with this project, as we do with every other project that comes to council.
This is a pretty major project, sir.
It's a major project, yes.
And it's going to affect a lot of people and kill a lot of people and ruin an island that actually probably belongs to the Aborigines. We probably took it away from them in the first place.
Have you got another question?
No, I've said what I want to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, nice to meet you all. My name's Lisa Bradfield and I live at 8 Main Road, Stanley. I've been there 33 years now. On 3 occasions over those 33 years, I have rang council to ask about the trees with the relation to the mess, the safety. I also have solar, which has cost me quite a bit of money, and which is totally irrelevant at the moment because I'm not getting any sunshine. The first time I rang council, I was told by Grant Scott that half of Stanley want the trees and half of Stanley don't want the trees and to get over it, basically, which is exactly what I was told. The second 2 times I was concerned about the safety. At that time I had young children who wanted to play in my front yard but couldn't because of in winter. Even though it was winter, we still played with the balls and things like that. That was irrelevant because of all the problems that were falling down. I didn't get any reply from the council that time. And actually I did ring twice because I was concerned with my young children. The third time I actually rang and they rang me back after I rang twice, complaining that last time I didn't get any response, and they said that they would look into it. I was told that unless the trees were dangerous, that they wouldn't do anything about it and that would let me know and they would have someone to come and take photos, and I have never heard anything since. I am also concerned about the mess. My garden is terrible. It is covered, and I invite every single one of you to come and visit my garden. I have to pick it up regularly.
What's your question?
Yes.
This is a question time.
Right. My question is, after 3 attempts to try and get something done, with nothing being done, not even a reply, A, I'm a council ratepayer. Why wasn't I at least have the decency of someone answering me my questions? B, why has it come to us to complain and now you have an arborist? You've never come to those trees. They've never been trimmed in 30 years that I've been there. You've never had anyone assess the danger.
Would you want to answer your question?
Yep, I do.
Well, it didn't come to council from what I understand since their last report, and I'm not sure why it didn't come to council. So,
right,
if our officers hasn't got back to you, I'm sorry about that.
Yep.
It didn't come to council.
Right.
And so now it has come to council. Right. We will at least get an arborist in to have a look.
Which I thank you for that.
And if they are deemed to be dangerous, now they'll let us know whether we just got to trim branches or whether they need to come down.
I have branches to my roof line now.
Yep.
But what about duty of care? Over 33 years, there's never been any inspection on those trees, ever. No trimming, nothing. Don't you have a duty of care to your ratepayers, of people who own those houses, of the pedestrians who walk past and go under those trees, and whoever else, animals, whatnot? I've seen limbs totally fall on the thing, and when now the greens trucks are coming in, they're hitting them. Isn't there a duty of care? That's my question.
Well, we would have a duty of care without...
So what's happened for the last 33 years?
I couldn't tell you that, to be quite honest, but we'll do what we can now. And you're welcome to come in when it is going to be on the table.
So what happens when you do get the report? Do we get notified by mail, being Main Road Stanley residents?
Just keep an eye on our agendas for the next couple of months, and it will certainly come back.
So can I ask you a question? Unless we hadn't done petitions and brought this to council, would anything have been done?
Not immediately, no.
No. So for 33 years, these trees have been totally ignored, and possibly in the future, unless we hadn't brought something up. Wouldn't, if someone had got hurt, as Sonia said, and there could possibly have been a lawsuit, wouldn't that have cost council more than to get them monitored regularly?
Could well have done. I mean,
yeah.
But we can only do what people asked us to do, and we do that.
But that brings me back to my duty of care.
Well, we've got a lot of trees on our roadway from...
I totally agree. But as you've stated, these are an iconic part of Stanley. So as an iconic part of Stanley, shouldn't they have had maintenance?
Question time. You're dialoguing now, so you need to be asking questions if you want to...
Right. So, basically my question is, why wasn't anything done continually after I specifically and other residents had
I've already
complained?
answered that. So.
Right. So I would like to know, why aren't we getting written as in the reply for the arbiters? We've made people living under these trees.
Well, I've told you that if you just keep looking at the agendas for the next meeting or two,
right,
you'll know when it comes up. And you'll see a report that will be given to us, so you can go from there.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sure if we can receive a petition.
Yep.
We have some contact details on there, I'm sure we can keep
in
touch with them.
But we haven't got a petition at this stage, have we not?
Well, I've got some here too. We actually had a petition at Stanley Minimart, which was 3 pages full, but someone actually stole it. So, that's how small-minded people are, because they obviously don't live under the tree. So, but that's right. That's my question is.
Yep, okay.
Thank you.
Perhaps, Mr. Mayor, if you have questions, you have the names and addresses.
Yes, if we had the names of addresses of people, we could actually get back to them.
Right, I'll give you my name and address. I can only speak for myself.
Yep. Oh, thank you.
I have one more question, please. I'm not trying to be flippant here, but Queenstown's already wrecked their environment. So why don't UPC, and I'm not being sarcastic, why doesn't UPC put the 122 wind turbines that are going to reach up to the sky anyway on all those denuded hills?
Well, you need to talk to UPC about that.
Well, you're speaking to them. Yes, I'm not being sarcastic.
No, that's fine.
I mean, they get wind.
They would, yep.
Certainly do.
Yeah.
I've got another question.
Okay.
How come in our rates, if you're a firefighter, like a volunteer firefighter, why should you have to pay a fire levy if you're risking your life for the community and going out and you pay fire levy?
That's a question you need to ask the state government, because they're the ones that put the fire levy on it. We don't. We only put it there because we're told that we have to from the state government. So we don't do it.
We collect it on behalf of the state government.
Yes, that's right. But we actually don't do it because we want to rate you at all.
Well, can someone look into it and with the state government and ask them why should volunteer firefighters have to pay a fire levy? Like,
we could talk to them about it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think we'll get a very favourable response, but we could talk to them about it.
Yeah.
Any further questions? No further questions?
I have one more.
One more? Yeah, that's okay.
I've recently got a copy of the DA for the Robbins Island Renewable Energy Park, and in that DA it states that, oh that's right, we're not allowed to talk about stuff, I'll just ask a question. When was in principle support given for the Robbins Island Road upgrades? What was the date and the year of that in principle support that UPC says the council gives them for the upgrades to Robbins Island Road? The date and the year, and was a desktop Aboriginal heritage survey conducted by the council prior to the in-principle support it gave to UPC for the upgrades to this road?
I couldn't answer that. I don't know whether... Yeah, we'd have to follow that up because I don't know.
You don't?
No.
Now can I ask one last question on behalf of Bradley Thorpe in Forest?
Yep.
Yep, he couldn't make it this evening, so he's asked me to ask. There is a crossing, a cattle crossing on the road at Forest, just down from the primary school. And I did send in a question about this a couple of months ago, and I attached some photographs with that email. With the condition of the road, they're not washing off the cow manure when the cows cross the road. So Bradley was just wondering what you were going to do about that, and could he please ask for something to be done about that?
We'd have to check that out. And, so it's a cattle crossing where dairy cows are going across the road?
Yes, it's Rodney Thorpe's old property up the top of there. It's all of the top of Forest till you get down to old Tuxworth sheds there.
Yeah, no, they should be hosing them down after they go through.
Yes. Or even them plastic mats that you put across the road and they pick up and they move them or whatever they do. Like just something, and it's pretty bad. Like, I mean, people washing their cars and driving through there, and yeah. So
that's a fair enough comment, and would need to check that out and get back to you.
And you'll just get back to me about that, or Brad?
Yes. Yeah, get back to you.
Yep, that'd be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No further questions? We'll move right along. Final. We now come to 9. Notice of the motion. Councillor Foskey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Excuse me, I just want to say one more thing. Sorry to interrupt. I really hope you will consider not to push this project ahead. That's all. A lot of people don't want it. A lot of ratepayers don't want it, and it's going to affect all.
Thank you. Councillor Foskey.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The motion is in respect to Jubilee trees. Being a Republican, I do admit that the Queen serves the Commonwealth very well over 70 years. I haven't done the project.
No, we agree on something, Councillor.
I didn't want Councillor Blizzard to hear. I raised this motion because I think it's fitting, firstly, that we recognise the service the Queen's given to the Commonwealth and Australia, and even visited Tasmania in a lifetime. There's a lot of good things, and I think what the motion is doing is applying for the grant and leading other community groups to be part of this important celebration, and it's a good opportunity.
So you're going to move the motion?
Sorry?
You're going to move the motion?
I did, yeah.
Somebody second that?
Second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Osiris. Any discussion? Councillor Aldo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really, like, it's all right going getting grants, and this is probably a reasonable one. But what I'd like Councillor Popovsky to be able to tell us is what is it going to cost council to their part in this, having to plant trees and the maintenance of the trees into the future? Put the motion up, sir, but you need to be able to tell us the full story.
You want to answer that?
You're living on his net.
I'll answer for Councillor Alday. It's like other landscaping things. Of course, there's an ongoing cost, but it's a leadership for the community to recognise the service of the Queen, and I think it would be money well spent that we do that, and there's no finite figure, but we've got the grants up to 25,000, and we get the number of trees appropriate that we could handle the finances.
Probably some Norfolk pines.
Just remember, you're on air.
Oh, well, I'm serious. I mean, if some of these trees
absolutely
are dangerous and they need to be taken down, we probably need to be looking at putting some more there. Seriously, I mean, they are the sorts of things that I would have thought that would probably do. Any further discussion? Councillor Edler.
Yeah, I think in principle it's a great idea, and thank you to Councillor Popovsky for bringing it forward. I just think with all projects as we go forward, as we get a little bit tight on the line, we also need to just understand what we're committing to.
Thank you. Any further? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
As a Republican.
9-0. There are no planning items. We'll go straight to 11.1. Tracy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, councillors, for your consideration tonight is to establish a youth mayor position. As part of the report, we've also provided a draft youth mayor position description. The Chill group put this forward to our council youth officer and talked about that they thought that that would provide them with a voice at the table. It would enable so that a young person is present at different activities and events and so on, and that I guess elevates them in terms of being part of the discussion. To be able to become the youth mayor, the person must have been a member of Chill for at least 12 months. So the reason for that being that in selecting someone into that role, we want to set them up for success, so make sure that they have some experience in being seen in the public and in interactions with all different people. So I put this for your consideration.
Thank you. Somebody prepared to move the recommendation?
Happy to move that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Blizzard. Second, Councillor Rutland. Any further discussion? Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, look, this is
Take it.
Oh, yeah, right. Then you can't understand me with it off, so it's going to be hard to line.
You've got that part right.
As being the council rep on Chill for the entire term, I've seen the growth of that group and what our Jody, our youth officer, is moving in the direction. And arrived here on not that this has really got part of the motion, but arrived here last Monday before, whenever it was, and found this table completely surrounded, and I had to sit in the back seat, which is probably a good place for me to sit anyway. A terrific bunch of young people there. The protocols around what they can do and what they can't do are quite sensible, but it does allow them on occasions, and I can think of a number of occasions in informal council where council duties where the youth mayor could work with the mayor and have some input into or have some verbiage about what the presentations were, and I just it probably gives them the encouragement to continue with the sensible and more meaty things that they're starting to put forward or get across to the council table. So I'll commend the report, and I'm more than happy to move it.
Thank you very much. Any further speakers for or against? I personally think it's a great idea. I think that we do need leaders in our community to lead us in the future, and the more people that take part in chill and things like a youth mayor, the better they're going to be when they are older to be able to show leadership. So certainly support it. No further speakers. I'll then put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. We'll now go on to 11.2, Youth Advisory Group.
Through you, Mr Mayor, again, this is another initiative within our youth services. One of the things that we've found is that sort of young people, when they're getting towards the end of their time at Chill, some sort of will still be okay to hang with that group and to interact with them, but there's another cohort of young people who want to talk about different things and are impacted by different things. So they're legal, they're over 18, and one of the things there's been, Jodie's been meeting informally with some young people, and what she has found is they have a very different focus than, say, Chill members do, and there is often information that comes out to this cohort. So there are a number of services and providers and government agencies that actually want to directly link into this age group to say, what do you think about this? And so she's been doing that informally, so letting young people in this cohort know. And it's much less, this group is much less about putting on events and things like Chill does, much more about their opinions, their ideas, their what they think about things. So I think it's a really good step to have the two groups. It is a natural succession for Chill members to then go on, not so much want to organise an event, much more want to sit down and talk about the things that matter to them. So I commend this report to you.
Thank you. Somebody prepared to move?
So move, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Ivasaris. Deputy Mayor, second. Do you want to speak to it, Councillor?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And I commend the report, and thank you, Tracy, for the clarification. I think this cohort, and Tracy summed it up pretty well, this cohort of people's of age bracket, I should say, is so important in our community. These are the issues that are hitting our youth at that age, whether it's mental health or whether it's finding employment or things like that. So I really challenge the group to have as many members as possible, but out of that group, let's hope that one, through the development of this and discussions, that become part of this table, because, and I thought you summed it up pretty well before, Mr Mayor, in the fact that leadership's about continual learning, and if we can excite that at a young age and continue to develop that through, hopefully someone between the age of 18 and 24 are game enough to at least run as a candidate to be a part of this, because it's something that I'll be forever grateful for joining in that age bracket at this table. And not only does it, I suppose, help you as a person in your leadership, but also in turn excite the table for what issues lie within that age bracket. So with that, I look forward to this happening.
Well said, mate.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Well said, Councillor Harris. I think I couldn't agree more with what you said. I think it's a valuable tool for us as a council to be able to have that information coming back of that age group, which we haven't had before. So I think we're fantastic.
Councillor Boston.
If I could get Tracy to explain what's the advocacy back to council? Is it through the youth mayor? And secondly, is it a committee of council or minutes will come to council?
Such a good question. I may need to take that question on notice. There will be some information. So the youth mayor will come from the chill group, whereas this group may or may not. They may want to come and present things to council. I'm not sure about the minutes, but I'll find that out.
And a council.
The councillor.
Yeah, being on as a committee of council.
That should have been in the
information.
Not there. Under the membership, it's not there.
Right, okay.
The terms of reference state that it provides an avenue, it provides advice to council, but doesn't offers advice and advocates to council. Consults with council. Doesn't state.
No, it doesn't state. It'd be good if they did, because if the minutes did come back to council, well then if there's something that they discuss that we should be aware of, we can find more information if we do.
They'll say that the minutes are going to be taken, so
yep.
we'll see them.
It would be good if they did come back. Any further discussion?
I just question what we've done, whether we've put the cart before the horse, whether we ought to have the leader of that group as a younger representing rather than the 18-year-old. So instead of that, what we agreed to earlier, would have been better to have the person between 18 and 24 as a potential youth mayor rather than the younger age group.
Can I, Mr. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Hine, the idea of the youth mayor is really for the younger group. This older group will be much more involved in a number of different topics and much more at a higher level, whereas the youth mayor is to encourage the youth. Well, once you get to 18, you're an adult, so you're out of that anyway. And the youth mayor is really to encourage that youth group. And if you see the chill group now, and even though they interact very well, you've got 13, 14-year-olds, or even 12-year-olds, I think last year, but 12, 13-year-olds against 18, 19-year-old, and that gap at that time is huge. So Jodie's idea, I believe, is the fact that this group has been pointed out, and Tracy put it in, this group wants to talk on more issues. This group wants to do things for the younger youth and encourage them along. So they've got two different roles. That, I might see at 18, as Councillor Harris put out, there's no reason, well, I say there's no reason, there's lots of reasons, but they can put their hand up to come and join us here and become the mayor for that matter. So.
Okay, thank you. Is any further discussion? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. 12.1, financial report. I think our GM is going to do that tonight.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our Director of Corporate Services is acting as a close contact and is isolating it as we speak.
Lucky lad.
So the opportunity falls to the General Manager to present the finances. You'll note in the report, Mr. Mayor, that we have one more application for first home owners and a 13 for the total so far in the financial year. Recorded there is the Area Management Committee's resources, the comprehensive income statement. I'm not going to read the numbers to everybody. Everybody can see those. And then you've got the cash flow. If you want me to, I'll go through it line by line.
Last week.
In terms of the total equity, essentially, council's working on a balance of $239,680,203. There is a number of year-to-date actuals and budgeted amounts there on page. Number am I on? Fourth page there. Bank reconciliation closing around. Any questions?
Are there any questions, councillors? Councillor Oakley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have one question regarding the finances.
Thank you, Martha.
Thank you.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, we recently had $290,000 that we used for 2 different projects because of mistakes that we made. And it was my understanding that we're running pretty tight project plans and lean principles. And I just wanted to ask, how is that possible? I think it's great that we had the flexibility to do it, but was there something that we need to be aware of going forward?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as I previously spoke of in relation to the forward estimates and how we actually do project management, typically our processes have been that we seek a formal quotation for a project and essentially consider that in a budget, and then it gets delivered in the subsequent 12-month period. What's actually happened, particularly in relation to the last circumstance, is that inflation has got hold of a number of building and construction materials, and the cost profiles in those have actually accelerated. So in terms of where we were with our formal quotation, effectively almost 12 months ago, we're considerably at odds in terms of being in a different place. Material shortages statewide, nationally and globally are actually driving price. If you're familiar with any imports of materials, global shipping is respectfully making up for the lost time in relation to the COVID shutdown. Shipping rates are exorbitant at this point in time. If you speak to any importers or exporters, some of those pressures are considerable at this point in time. That is part of that supply chain pressure. Dare I say respectfully, with prices that are moving, you're likely to see a number of different responses in the fiscal position of the country change around interest rates because of that inflationary pressure that we're seeing in terms of projects. Even small stuff, there's a number of dynamics around just the quotations that we have for works. I think I was talking to Danny last week. Stainless steel's gone up almost 50%. So you've only got to have small components in terms of a project that move, and then everybody passes that price on.
I understand why we needed it, and again, it's great that we've got that flexibility there. But is it normal that we have those kind of amounts built into to be able to pull that money quickly? That was just, I just found that a bit, I just want to ask about that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, the answer is we got the benefit of some locked-in contract costs to generate some savings, and then we've been exposed to the market later on in terms of the cost accelerations. That just demonstrates the volatility.
It's not normal, though.
No, it's absolutely not normal that those circumstances, we have those swings and roundabouts. We're generally much leaner in terms of the volumes and the accuracy of the numbers. The dynamics is in terms of the inflationary pressures that are in construction materials at the moment. I've spoken specifically to James and Daniel. Just let Mark get his legs under the table. But the dynamics in terms of forecasting for next year, we're going to have to be quite robust.
That was my next question.
Yeah. As an example, the movement in fuel prices in the last month has been, that puts a considerable amount of pressure on costs, particularly when you're driving a motor grader that uses diesel every day.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Only that, is there anything as councillors that we need to be aware of going forward to allow for some of those projections with our financial planning?
I think in the budget it's going to be part of the discussion in our budget when we start on it, which is going to be in the next 2 or 3 weeks, as I understand it.
That's great.
Because it is going to be, we're going to have to be mindful of that when we're doing our budget this year.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to do normal, you're going to be faced with a considerable cost increases. You know, just your normal grading program will be jumping at least the fuel rate. And there's a lot of expectations in relation to wages, inflationary pressures, cost of living is biting everybody on the tail. At this point in time, there will have to be some clear decisions made as to whether you want to have a balanced budget, want to run a deficit, or you actually want to run a surplus. Having a balanced budget with some of these pressures and having the demands in terms of accuracy for projects, you'd be better off having 3 or 4 projects rather than 3 dozen projects. That's where, you know, in terms of if you're looking at trying to be prudent in terms of the budget moving forward, that's where, you know, limiting your exposure to those particular new costs. But at the same time, even renewal is going to suffer some of those pressures.
Thank you.
Anything further? I have somebody move the report. Thanks, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Rattler. Happy second. Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. 12.3. Management, Senior Management Report. Thanks.
So, yeah, are we doing 11.4? Quarterly financial reports?
Oh, that'd be a good idea.
I was looking forward to that one.
I haven't got 11.4 on mine.
Yeah, it shows 12.2 on the index, but it's 11.4 on the head.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, quarterly reports.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Report 11.4, just following on from the conversation just there. In terms of the operational summaries are split into the categories there that are on the first page. In terms of a number of those categories, some of those are exposed to more cost pressures than others. In terms of the overall position, you can see from the sheets that are attached there, the notations at the bottom are important in terms of where some of those movements have actually occurred. In general, we are managing reasonably well with a number of those parameters, but at the same time, as expectations rise, in terms of projects that are not actually on the list, those themselves essentially trigger how can we find the resources. We do have some capacity within budgets to offset, or dare I say politely delay when certain things are going to occur. But the core activities in terms of our key asset management and maintenance program is running pretty well on track. We seem to be doing the right amount of work at the right time, making sure particularly our unsealed road network is up to speed. We've had some really good weather in the last couple of weeks to actually make that happen and enable us to provide a level of service that will see us through, particularly the wetter winter months. I'm happy to take any questions that you've got in relation to any of the particular line items.
Thank you.
The list of projects that have been earmarked in the budget, are we going to complete 100% or we're running at 66% or how are we going on track for having projects completed?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, my understanding is you'll be north of 80% in terms of projects completed. Your maintenance is going pretty well in terms of the dynamics there. It's whether we can actually get contractors to actually finish some of the other projects that we've engaged them to do. There's a fair bit of pressure on in relation to some of those particular components where we're relying upon others. Dare I say, there's a few consequences in the construction environment where bills are not being paid. There's a bit of pressure on particular organisations to continue to sustain where they are.
Any further questions? Are we prepared to move the report then?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Blue. Second, Councillor Bosky. No discussion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Might go to 12.3 now. Senior Manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Senior Management report. You'll note there's 4 components to that. The recommendation. I'll highlight the uniform components that were discussed at Council's workshop. Also, you've got the clarification there in relation to Public Art Advisory Group under the community banner. Community Grants Program Round 2 is closing on the 28th of February, so there's just a fraction over a week available for community to participate in that. Be keen for everybody to put their applications forward. The Healthy Tasmania Grant Program, Fit February. I know everybody's been out walking and doing different things, which is really good to see. Swirl, 353 young people recorded for the 16 days. That's a pretty positive outcome in terms of engaging a cohort of youth to use a fabulous community facility. Australia Day events, Australia Day awards. You'll note that the photographs are outside, so they're mask free. The dynamics is that we've had some tremendous recipients of those awards in the community this year. Following the duck fireworks, very nervous day that day with the high wind. Multiple phone calls between the manager of community services and myself. Are we on? Are we off? Are we on? Are we off? But in terms of an outcome, it was fabulous. And you've got a twilight picture of the celebration tree as it lights up, which is fabulous to see. In the youth space, there's summer events have been clicking through. 41 tickets were sold. Children under 8, under 12 for the January school holiday projects. Chills is back in action. Youth Week, 7 Up starts essentially, or has started in the last week or so with school returning. And you'll notice under the emergency management matter, the fuel condition, root zone, soil moisture. We're fairly and squarely in the low zone at this point in time, particularly in relation to some areas where they're possibly the lowest on record for a period of time. That exposes us to some potential bushfires, and would encourage everybody to be, dare I say, fire sensitive in relation to their activities. And in relation to the tourism aspect of the report, almost even pegging between Tasmania, Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland. And it's obvious what happens when borders are open in relation to 3/4 of the total is essentially being driven from interstate travel. I present the report for Councillors' consideration.
Councillor Rollo.
On the subject of fire, all those sort of things, I do note the interest. There was a couple of places within places are very dangerous to the rest of the community, because if there's a fire gets in, there is one up in whatever street is, going up Massey Street and you turn left at the top of the hill before you get to I think of the name of the street just at the present time. One right up that block right on the corner, it opens out onto the front. It's Boundaries councillor who's not, unfortunately got leave of absence tonight, and it also Boundaries
William Street.
William Street, just the one I was trying to think. Right in the corner. The one right in the corner is there is a fire hazard there, and if it goes, the right conditions will cause a fair bit of trouble. But I do note that there is some blocks around the place that have there's some pretty long grass around. Probably this needs to be brought to attention. One up in William Street, like we all want to talk about, and you talk about a bloke down the street here having junk about the place. But you all should go for a look up there, and you'll find that you want to be living next door.
Any further?
Just some feedback from today's visit, during Meals on Wheels visit, that the comment was that the Australia Day tree, magnificent, Judith from the home, great idea, and that, like everything, just to downsize, community service said they were going to produce a list of national days, or days we would probably recommend the tree be lit up differently. I was wondering, Tracy, how are you getting along with that, and when are we going to get that? What's the next one going to be?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We have done that.
Good.
And I'd be guessing if I told you what it was going to be next time. So I will get that list and distribute that so that everyone's aware of what colour and why that colour.
Green and gold.
And
red and black.
Oh, yeah.
I'm with you.
Oh, she got caught.
Just like
See how much you've upset me.
Sorry, Tracy, I don't know.
Oh, dear.
I'm glad to hear it, Tracy.
The point was the positive feedback's great with people who can't get there and they can see it.
Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just silently note that in the tourism section about the brochures of the Western Explorer at the Launceston Visitor Centre, they requested more copies within 3 months. So it would be nice to know, just food for thought anyway, where those visitors, whether they were local people or whether interstate people flying into Launceston and then wanting to go further afield. But just a quick follow-up call would be much appreciated to see if and how many actually attended the Western Explorer this summer.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that new brochure that our tourism managers pulled together has been quite popular in relation to the Western Explorer.
Good. Anything further? If not, is somebody prepared to move the recommendation, knowing that there's 4 attachments to it, 4 parts to it?
I know, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Seconded?
Yes.
Councillor Redland. Any discussion? Not of the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. We are now down to the next lot of public questions.
Disappointing.
Nothing? Yeah, I got patched up a bit, didn't I? 15.1, I need a motion that matters listed for consideration and close meeting.
Yes.
Thanks, Councillor Redland.
Second. Oh,
Councillor Blizzard.
whatever.
Put the motion, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Another one to close the vote.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, yes.
Could I please say just a quick thing before we close the meeting, if that's okay?
Next door?
No,
No,
here,
that's okay, yeah.
in the public realm while we're still on recording. Is that okay?
Yep.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I just would like to take the time while we're in the public arena to formally thank Scott for his dedication.
Oh, that's what I meant, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that's all right. No, go for it.
go for it.
Yep.
And guidance over the last 4 years as General Manager. Through my time at Council, I've seen your work ethic and passion for the job create a positive cultural change in the organisation. The first time we both met was at a tourism meeting and destination action plan in early 2018, prior to my appointment as a councillor. To have the General Manager present, listening to the conversations at the table and following up the issues, I knew right then your leadership type was going to be invaluable for Circular Head. Each year you've encouraged us all to get better and continuing to keep asking the right questions, some of which have potentially been painful but kept us in the right direction as council. You've got a great way of dissecting complex issues and making it seem easy to resolve. So thank you for your development and input into, thank you. And some of the major issues over the last 4 years to mention that I think you've had great input on is leading our organisation through COVID, track closures in the Arthur Pyman, lean processes in the workplace, renewable energy conversations, and finding solutions within housing supply and circular head. I wish you and your family the best in the future, and please remember that black English cattle are better than the red Angus. Thank you, and thought I'd leave it with that.
Well done. Yeah, no, I intended to, before we finished up, to actually, again, thank Scott for what you've done in the last 4 years now. It's been a fantastic journey for all of us, and it hasn't always been easy, I know that, and but acknowledge that. But the way you've led us, and when you go to other meetings right around the state, I know that you're actually very highly regarded by many councils, and can't understand why you're going. But anyway, we probably can't either do that, but we'll cope. But thank you very, very much and personally, thank you very much for the great association we've had over that time, because it's been fantastic.
Thank you very much.
And I didn't put that motion, so I'll put it now. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. It was Councillor Berkery and Councillor Rice.
Well done, Steph.
Now we'll get out of that and go back on to close. We need to go into our